How does God benefit from our prayers, our supplications, and our fasting? Some people, they may also first ask, what is the wisdom for which God created us? And then when you respond that He created us to worship Him, they immediately object saying, but what does He gain from us worshiping Him? So in order to respond to this question, we must first look at the assumptions in the question itself. This question assumes that Allah needs our worship, and that worship, but we need to know that worship is for our benefit and not Allah's benefit. And a major part in seeking knowledge and seeking answers and learning is asking the right questions. So before slipping in assumptions or passing a judgment, we have to first fully comprehend what is being discussed. So since human beings are finite creatures, we are incapable of fully comprehending the realities of an eternal God and grasping His perfection. After all, we do not have direct access to God, nor the visual or mental capacity to handle such access were it granted, nor do we have access to anything comparable that would allow our imaginations to construct a mental image. We recognize the human limitations in comprehending the divine. As finite beings, humans cannot fully grasp the infinite and perfect nature of Allah. And a disclaimer, from here on out, I'll be using the term Allah instead of the term God. And the reason for that is because that is what Allah has named Himself in the Quran. And when you look at the difference between the word Allah and the word God, there's a big difference. When we say God, it has a lot of loose meanings. A person can change God to being plural by saying gods, or can give God a gender by saying gods or goddess or goddesses with a gender and plural. But when it comes to Allah, we cannot do that. And we say La ilaha illallah, which means that there is no God, there is no deity worthy of worship except Allah. And God in Arabic is called ilah and not God. And the meaning of ilah is al-ma'bud, which means the object that is worshipped. So if we take a look at the pre-Islamic era, and we looked at the condition of the people of Mecca, the ones who were worshipping many idols, they worship these idols as their gods. But when they're asked, وَلَئِن سَأَلْتَهُمْ مَنْ خَلَقَ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ لَيَقُولُنَّ اللَّهِ. So they worship all these so-called gods. But when they were asked, who is the one who created the heavens and the earth? They only had one response, and they said, Allah. Because we know that Allah is the creator of everything. He is the absolute truth. And He is the one that we attest to. But if you were to take any other object as a thing that you worship, you call it God, that becomes a mistake. So inshallah, I'll be using the term Allah from here on out. As finite beings, we cannot grasp the infinite and perfect nature of Allah. And if we claim to understand or critique God's motives or Allah's motives, especially about His command for worship, we fall short due to these inherent limitations. The Quran underscores that human knowledge cannot encompass the full essence of Allah, reminding believers to rely on divine revelations for understanding His attributes. For instance, in the 42nd chapter of the Quran, verse number 11, Surah Ash-Shura, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, بَعْدَ أَعُوذُ بِاللَّهِ مِنَ الشَّيْطَانِ الرَّجِيمِ لَيْسَ كَمِثْلِهِ شَيْءٌ وَهُوَ السَّمِيعُ الْبَصِيرُ. Allah says that there is nothing like unto Him, and He is a hearing, the seeing. So this illustrates that God's nature transcends human limitations and human comprehension. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He also mentions, يَعْلَمُ مَا بَيْنَ أَيْدِيهِمْ وَمَا خَلْفَهُمْ وَلَا يُحِيطُونَ بِهِ عِلْمًا. He says that Allah knows what happens to His creation in this world and what will happen to them in the hereafter, but they will never compass anything of His knowledge. So inshallah, there are two things that we need to understand. Firstly is that Allah created us for His worship. And secondly, Allah does not need our worship. Just because Allah has commanded us with worship, that does not necessitate that He needs it. Not every request is prompted by the requester's need. And if you were to look at us humans, for example, consider a doctor or nurse who gives a patient medicine or an injection. They do that and they would love for the patient to obey their request, not for their personal benefit, but because if the patient obeys the doctor in this, it will result in benefit for that patient, not for the doctor. Just like Allah's love for worship points to the benefits that worship entails for the humans. So this shows that the command to be worshipped does not necessitate need for it. And when we look into the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says, وَلَهُ مَا فِي السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ وَلَهُ الدِّينُ وَاسِبًا أَفَغَيْرَ اللَّهِ تَتَّقُونَ. He says, to Him belongs all that is in the heavens and all that is in the earth, and to Him is due worship constantly and perpetual sincere obedience. None has a right to be worshipped but Allah. Will you then have mindfulness and God consciousness and hope for His mercy and fear for His punishment in anybody except Allah? We also need to know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has rejected two things for Himself. The first is that He does not command a thing or does something because He Himself has need for it. And secondly, He has rejected that He needs or that He does something or commands something for no reason. So two things. He does not do things for a need that He has, nor does He do it for absolutely no reason. Everything that He commands and does, such as creation, has a purpose behind it. And this is evidenced by some ayat from among the many ayat, the many verses of the Quran. First one is a verse, وَمَا خَلَقْتُ الْجِنَّ وَالْإِنسَ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونَ. Allah mentions in Surah Ad-Dariyat, chapter number 51, that I, Allah, created not the jinn and mankind except that they should worship Him alone. And then He continues, He says, مَا أُرِيدُ مِنْهُمْ مِنْ رِزْقٍ وَمَا أُرِيدُ أَن يُطْعِمُونَ. He says, I seek not any provision from them, nor do I ask that they should feed me. إِنَّ اللَّهَ هُوَ الرَّزَّاقُ ذُو الْقُوَّةِ الْمَتِينَ. He says, verily Allah is the all-provider, and He is the owner of power, the most strong. So this is evidence of the rejection of need. That Allah, He gives us our life purpose in these verses, that He created us for worship, not because He benefits from it or anything. And he verifies this by saying that He is the all-provider, and He is the owner of power, and He is the most strong. In another verse, Surah Az-Zumar, chapter number 39, verse number 7, Allah says, إِن تَكْفُرُوا فَإِنَّ اللَّهَ غَنِيٌّ عَنْكُمْ. He says, if you disbelieve, then verily Allah is not in need of you. So do not think that Allah created you because He is in need of your worship or of your belief or anything from you. And when we look at the story of Moses, if we look at the chapter Abraham, chapter Ibrahim, chapter number 14, verse number 8, Allah says, وَقَالَ مُوسَى إِن تَكْفُرُوا أَنْتُمْ وَمَنْ فِي الْأَرْضِ جَمِيعًا فَإِنَّ اللَّهَ لَغَنِيٌّ حَمِيدٌ. He says that Moses said, if you disbelieve, you and all that is on earth together, then indeed Allah is rich and He is free of all needs, and He is the owner of all praise. Another verse, Surah Al-Anbiya, the 21st chapter of the Quran, verse number 16, Allah says, وَمَا خَلَقْنَا السَّمَاءَ وَالْأَرْضَ وَمَا بَيْنَهُمَا لَاعِبِينَ. He says that we did not create the heavens and the earth and all that is in between them for a mere play. So this evidence is the second point that we made, which is that Allah does not create anything for absolutely no reason. Allah says, أَفَحَسِبْتُمْ أَنَّمَا خَلَقْنَاكُمْ عَبَثًا وَأَنَّكُمْ إِلَيْنَا لَا تُرْجَعُونَ. Did you think that we had created you in play without any purpose and that you would not be brought back to us? And the last verse I will mention from among the many verses in the Quran, Allah says, فَتَعَالَى اللَّهُ الْمَلِكُ الْحَقِّ لَا إِلَهَ إِلَّا هُوَ رَبُّ الْعَرْشِ الْكَرِيمِ. He says, so exalted be Allah, the true King, the owner of everything in existence. لَا إِلَهَ إِلَّا هُوَ, the Lord of the Supreme Throne. So, going back to the question, the mistake in a question such as this is likening Allah to ourselves. Because us as humans, if we do something, someone may ask us, why did you do this? And our responses are going to be one of two things. Either we will say we did it for whatever, as maybe a lot of our little siblings do, or we will tell somebody we did this because of our need regarding this and that. But as for Allah, He is completely perfect and He has absolutely no need for such matters. So this question is only meant for our likes as humans. And because of that, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, لا يسأل عما يفعل وهم يسألون. He says, He, Allah, cannot be questioned as to what He does, while they will be questioned. So after understanding this and setting the premise for our question, we go back to the question, why did Allah then create us? And as we went through the verses, Allah says that He created us to worship Him and to actualize worship by doing whatever He commanded and by avoiding whatever He has forbidden. And this is what we are in need of, not Him. If we obey Allah, our Creator, our Sustainer, then we will succeed. And if we disobey Him, then we are the ones who will fail in our lives and in our hereafter. So the question is, who is the one that is truly in need, us or Allah? So that is the first wisdom. The second wisdom that we learn from the Quran is for the manifestation of the effects of the names and attributes of Allah. That we can come to understand the attributes of Allah, that He is a creator, that He is a sustainer, that He is a giver and the taker of life, the ever merciful, the perfectly wise, the all-knowing, and so on from His many perfect names and attributes. Allah says, Allahu alladhi khalaqa sab'a samawati wa min al-ardi mithlahun يتنزل الأمر بينهن لتعلموا أن الله على كل شيء قدير وأن الله قد أحاط بكل شيء علما. Allah says that it is Allah who has created 7 heavens and of the earth the like thereof. His command descends between them, and that you may know that Allah has power over all things, and that Allah surrounds all things in His knowledge. Lastly, the greatness of the Creator is indicated by the greatness of His creation. Indeed, the creation's impeccable design points to a Creator who is purposeful and who is unique in wisdom, not one who acts in ways devoid of wisdom or benefit. Wallahu ta'ala alam. And Allah knows best.